Yeah, I think from my personal experience, watching your child suffer, you feel their pain 1,000 times more. It's
Mm,
happening to you amplified. And Carly had chronic fatigue for about 5.5 years. And it was also a time where there wasn't enough known about it in the broader community. And I found that people would misunderstand and say to me, oh, well, why doesn't she just go and lie down and maybe go to sleep so she can do more things the next day, or she can go to that party? And they didn't understand it wasn't about going to sleep. The fatigue was a total exhaustion physically and mentally. It wasn't about, oh, I need to go to sleep and then I'll be fine and I can go party and do all the things I want to do. And because people didn't really know what the illness was about, they thought you were just sleepy. You need to go to sleep. As a mother, as a parent, you want the best for your child, better than what you have. You want to give them everything in the world so they can be the best that they can be. Seeing their sadness and all the things connected with that sadness, the lack of spontaneity, the lack of choice, you take that on board. It was so many shades of grey and so little professional help out there. So back then, 10, 12 years ago, there was still not enough known about it, and it would be dismissed by a general GP as, oh, look, it's just in their head, or they've just had a virus and they'll recover. I think I saw 6 people before we finally found someone at the Royal Children's. Even though she was 18, he agreed to see her, and he'd set up this very unique program at the Austin Hospital. And he was the one that was finally able to empathise and tell me what she has and start to chart a plan to help facilitate her moving forward. Definitely before I found that guy, I kind of went through a bit of a black space and realized in my frustrations of not being able to find anyone that could give us some kind of concrete help and a direction to move in. And I kind of realized that I was like sinking a bit. And I actually just went to see a professional psychologist just to talk, because I had no one to talk to because my friends didn't understand. My husband was struggling to manage it. My extended family, no one understood. I needed a safe space to go to where I could just talk, and that helped me. It was really important because I didn't feel good and I didn't like how I was feeling, and then I couldn't be what I needed to be for not just Carly, but my whole family. I think in today's world, it's much more accepted to seek help when you need it, whereas 20 years ago you just didn't do that. So it's great that, it's acceptable to do that, and I think it's really important when you recognise you're not managing something and you're not feeling great, get your clarity back, and that helped me to then manage the process. The frustrating part was it was like 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards. So Carly would make some progress and we go backwards again and forwards and backwards. Carly went into a program for a month. She was meant to go to the Austin, and because she'd turned 18 and it was a pediatric unit, they were going to accept her and make an exception. But then they realised if they do that, how do they say no to the next kid that's 18? So we went into a program, a separate program that was set up by a kid that had gone through the Austin Hospital program. And she lived in there for a month and came back. And at that stage, I still hadn't gone on that journey of how I separate myself. So I was too invested, and I probably put that burden on her of my expectation of, okay, you're going to be good now. And, there was all this hope and there was too much pressure. And of course, she was good for a short period and then started to slip back. It's a lot of anxiety that the person that's going through chronic fatigue feels, because just in the regime and boundaries itself create an anxiety. What if I go over this boundary? And I found that really difficult with Carly to just relax. And it's okay if you run for 5 minutes more than you're meant to. Nothing bad will happen to you. But her anxiety levels were really high, which created a lot of anxiety in me. And I didn't even realize I was carrying this anxiety. She went through a number of psychologists till she found the right person that worked for her, that she could connect to, and that kind of got her And that was a big development in unlocking the anxiety. And I think when that happened, that helped me too. She started to understand what anxiety does and how it's restricting her. And then I suppose then connecting, there was you, this psychologist, and various other people at play. And that was, we had a lot of hope on this program that we put together ourselves because there was nowhere for her to go. And this was already at the 4 year, 3.5, 4 year
4
mark,
years.
I think. 4 years. Finding you and all these other people connected to you and putting that program in place was the beginning of unlocking that process of Carly moving forward and breaking those chains of these tight boundaries she'd put around herself. I can't do this because this will happen, and all these things that she'd think if she overstepped something in her mind. The tension you feel and the fear of them slipping backwards again takes hold of you. For me personally, took hold of me. If I'd see her just remotely slip back, I'd be on tenterhooks, like I wasn't sleeping and my stress level was through the roof, and I couldn't really be a parent to my other 2 kids and really a good partner to my husband even, because the anxiety that I was carrying was so huge. And that's when I went to see a psychologist, life coach, just to help me manage that. So it was a gradual process. And I think the biggest step was helping Carly to get herself to live overseas in an exchange program. I'd taken her away for her 19th birthday and then her 21st, and they were disastrous trips, hoping that this would reset things and whatever. They were a disaster, and they were nightmares. In the middle of the night, ringing my husband and saying, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And then getting Carly to that space where she had the confidence that she could go overseas and do this exchange program and be an exchange student. That was a real benchmark, and that was me letting go. I was trying to be too controlling, do this, do that, we'll do this, let's do this. And that was bombarding. I just didn't know it at the time. We mean well, and I meant well, but I learned through that person that I saw that I needed to stop doing that because I was too on alert, and she could feel me being on alert. I got morose. I got really morose and was like, okay, we need to pick myself up out of that bad space. So that was that process, finding that time so I can separate those feelings. Doesn't mean I ignore them, but I just found a way to tone them down. So those little voices in my head weren't running around so much, dictating every thought, every moment. So yeah, like you said, the role as a parent is putting boundaries and guidelines. So you give examples to your kids. So then you hope through that they can go on and make good choices and do the right thing. And because you're used to controlling and doing all that, when kids turn 18, you've got to kind of pull back a bit and let them start to be adults and not try and control them so much. The relationship changes. But when you're going through chronic fatigue, the natural instinct for a parent is to control, so to help the kid get over the situation. But controlling is creating an anxiety. And it was a pivotal moment where she said she hit rock bottom. And I distinctly remember the phone call. She was living overseas. And she said, I can't let this control me any longer. I need to take control of this illness, not the illness controlling me. And because we'd given her the space to take control of her life, I think that was all part of it. But it was me letting go of the control. They have to want to do it themselves. They've got to want to walk through that door and do it for them. When they're ready, they'll take on board things and that anxiety will start to drop away. I get asked often, so what was it that made Carly get over chronic fatigue? And I always say to people, it's not one thing, it's a combination of things, because basically the whole body shuts down. So if your whole central nervous system shuts down, everything shuts down. It's a holistic approach. It's diet, it's sleep patterns, it's exercise, it's life balance. How do you balance everything in your life so you can have a full life? Because typically, and I mean, I'm generalizing, people that get chronic fatigue are more A-type personalities, not everybody, but generally, you're perfectionists. You're going to do things to the nth degree. How do you learn to balance life? And that's what it is. It's about balancing what's right for you, what works for one person, what works for Toby Morrison, what works for me, what works for my daughter. We're all different, and we each have our own composition internally of how much stress we can take, how many late nights we can take, how much bad food we can take. It's about loving your body and respecting your body, so you get that good balance. It's probably what I took away the most, and what I learned the most is when you came into Carly's life. That was probably a big epiphany for me about really understanding chronic fatigue, a whole holistic approach to balance for your body, for your mind and body. And that took me down a path. And as said, I went on and did transcendental meditation and exercise. It took me on a path about life balance, because I got out of balance. I would say acknowledge in yourself when you feel those frustrations, because you getting frustrated, that creates an energy that then inadvertently puts a pressure on the person going through chronic fatigue. And work out a method of how you're going to deal with those frustrations so they don't spill over and colour every area of your life. To take time for yourself so you make sure that you retain your balance, so then you can give properly.